Hello today, my dear players. It's a pleasure to be doing another video to you today, and I will be doing another video of taking a character from another anime and putting them in Jujutsu Kaisen and making a curse technique for them. And today, we'll be talking about another character from Naruto, the infamous Sasuke Uchiha. For, again, something I mentioned with my Naruto video, but this goes double for Sasuke. I cannot put everything that's iconic about Sasuke into the same set of abilities. I found a few workarounds, but I can't fit everything. And I'll just spoil you right now. The lightning release, so Chidori, lightning blade, Kirin, out the window. I'm so sorry. But that's all I had to go in favor of me making this work. If you had a better idea for a curse technique that you think is more fitting for Sasuke, maybe revolving around the lightning, let me know. I'd be happy to hear it. So, first off, something I will say is that I am giving him a version of his Sharingan. That is to say that I'm going to make it be a non-standard innate ability similar to the Six Eyes that the Uchiha clan in this version of Naruto in this version of the situation can have. The idea I would have it is that Sharingan is essentially an inferior version of the Six Eyes in many ways, and that he would have many of its functions, which it does anyway in Naruto actually. But the way that it works is that how intense the benefits are for the Sharingan are going to scale with the general mastery of cursed energy the user has, thus reflecting the development from 1 Tomo to 3 in the Mangekyo, essentially. Meaning that when a user of the Jujutsu Kaisen version of the Sharingan here first has it, it is a bonus. It is something they have up over other sorcerers, but it's a relatively minor buff, like a few percentage points, essentially. It isn't until one has fully mastered their own cursed energy, fully mastered their own cursed energy, and thus fully awakened their Sharingan, that they have as intense of benefits as a user of the Six Eyes does. That kind of idea. So Sharingan would be in a perfect form within this new version of the situation be equal to the Six Eyes, but most of the time it isn't. In the vast majority of the cases, it's just inferior. So that's essentially what I would allow him to have. Next thing, since that's very quick, just a quick note. The second thing is that his cursed technique, I haven't yet settled on like a perfect name for it. I am stuck between just the fire generation technique or the fire breathing technique. And you'll see why I'm stuck between those two in a bit. But yeah, I'm focusing on the fire-related aspect of his abilities, since it's relatively understated, but Uchiha have a major fire theme with their abilities and what they can do, and Sasuke has a heavy theme of being held down by his family. So I thought it most fit his character as if I made his cursed technique the central part of his moveset in the Jujutsukaisen version of him to be fire related. Like, it just felt like it's what it needed to be. And now we'll move on, in that I think the base technique, the most basic way that it can be used, is just that when Sasuke activates the technique, he makes the tiger hand sign, if those remember the tiger hand sign, and then breathes out fire, a stream of fire, very basic. And then with more training, he can use different hand signs or different senses of focus or help from his Sharingan in order to essentially better manipulate the fire in new ways. Thus, as instead of shooting out a stream of fire, spitting out a giant ball of fire, or spitting out several small bolts of fire, or breathing the fire onto other things in order to grant those things like a fire buff. And just all kinds of stuff like that. But for his base technique, really focus on breathing as the mechanic. For breathing, a combination of breathing and hand signs for how he controls and manipulates the fire in different ways. And with a higher mastery of his Sharingan, while this isn't something that he did much until he got his Mangekyo, I would just go ahead and count it as a thing he can do generally, but that only scales up incredibly with time, is that through actively using his Sharingan, he can manipulate his fire a bit more than he can without having it activated. So I think that kind of leaves open some interesting ways that he can use fire that he wouldn't have done in the main series of Naruto. And just as a fun little thing to add to him, as to kind of consistently show why the Sharingan might be useful for a user, even if it's not good as the Six Eyes, to actually show him using it to do things with fire he otherwise couldn't. And with this, obviously he would end up being very much a mid to long range fighter, but with close range capabilities. Light a sword on fire, cut a bitch. Totally open for what can be done. And that's the main technique. Not much to cover really. Second thing about it, but the next step we'll have is the reverse curse technique. This I've had to think about a lot. But I think what I might settle on for his reverse curse technique is that by activating it, he can create his reverse curse technique is essentially Amaterasu. In that, instead of breathing out fire and then controlling it, he can just spawn fire wherever his eyes are focusing. And this fire would be black. It would feel and act slightly differently than normal fire. It'd be more intense, partially because of it being made of positive energy this time, but also partially because it just has different intended properties from normal fire, as Amaterasu does. And as a fun detail to add to this, in that I think that with enough training, and once his Sharingan has evolved to enough of an extent with this version of Sasuke, that he could, similar to how Gojo could combine the use of his red and blue with the help of his Six Eyes to create hollow purple. That could be really interesting, is if we could do something similar with Sasuke to replicate kinda something he has in Naruto, which is Susanoo. The idea being is that through combining the negative fire of his normal curse technique and the positive black fire of his reverse curse technique, and then using his Sharingan to help him control and manipulate and shape it, he can create a Susanoo of sorts. It won't be like... I don't think he'd be scaling up to perfect Susanoo ever at any point. But I think just the idea of being able to summon the ribcage and the skeleton arms and stuff like that, and maybe a sword, I think all that's really cool. Fits in, kind of is a fun way to nod to where he's originally from, and just seems like a fun ability in general. And obviously you could probably do a lot of other things by doing this, because at this point, this version of him, with that much that much mastery over his cursed energy and thus his Sharingan, he would be able to essentially just freely manipulate both his normal fire and his positive black fire with just as much precision and creativity as he does with Kuretsuchi back in Naruto proper. So this means like channeling black fire. This means like channeling all types of fire into the shapes of spikes. This means just creating cages of black fire. This using it defensively, like coating something in it to protect it. All kinds of possibilities. And yeah, also, as a general note, because I think it kind of fits this idea with Sasuke, is that I think Sasuke would probably be the type to learn a lot of the, non-curse technique abilities throughout the show. He'd probably be the one to learn a lot of that, like go out of his way to try and learn how to use a simple domain, probably use it in offensive matter, knowing him. And yeah, I could see him like really diving deep into that. Maybe getting a bit into the use of different kinds of barriers. Yeah, I could see all kinds of stuff that he would be willing to try out and figure out. Just to kind of fit this vibe of trying to get every possible resource he can in order to kill his brother and have vengeance and everything, which would still be canon in this version of him. He would probably learn everything he possibly can. Yeah. Last bit would be his domain expansion. This one, I actually have a very specific... I do know what I would name it, and I do have like an aesthetic for it. I think that is a very specific aesthetic name. I would name it a family home, a family's burning home. That's what I would call it. And what it would summon, what the domain would look like, is it would look like a small village that was burning, like actively burning. And I'm pretty certain that Sasuke is the type of person that would end up refining his to be a sure hit domain rather than a rule-based domain. And yeah, I could see him just using it to land a number of things. That the way a lot of the sure hit would be like blasts of fire coming from the burning homes of like the burning houses of his home, striking at the enemy, like countless fireballs just coming out of the buildings to slam against them and burn them as he runs that fucking fade with them. Whether it be fighting him in taijutsu, or hand-to-hand, my bad, so used to Naruto. Fighting him in hand-to-hand, probably maybe with some burning fucking hand-to-hand by breathing fire on himself. I could also see black fire being an instant hit in here if he forced it to. And lastly, just as a final detail of the domain, just to fully lean into the Narutardness of my activity in doing this, have his domain be the only place that he can manifest the full Susanoo, where he can manifest the full Susanoo. So like he can just summon the full big thing of just black and red burning samurai, and just slice them down with that giant fucking katana. Because why not? Actually, whoa, that just hit me. That could actually be a fun additional mechanic to the domain, that sure, he has a sure hit with all the fireballs, but that as the village is burnt, like there's like a timer essentially in here, that the more the village burns down, the more the Susanoo is built up, made out of the remnants of all the houses and and shit. And so that oh, and this would actually perfectly reflect with how like Uchiha's Sharingan actually work in the show, because there's a panel in Naruto where they talk about how hatred makes the ability, like the chakra and the Sharingan, more and more and more intense, and thus makes the Susanoo more intense. So the source of Sasuke's hatred and his rage, which was the death of his family and the burning and all this burning, the more in the domain everything burns down, the bigger and stronger the Susanoo grows until it is complete, in which case it's an auto-execute. Like, it's just here is my vengeance, now die, blast, slice, burning, slash, death, destruction. Oh, that's really fucking cool. I'm sorry. And this is just another thing. I just think it would be kind of a neat parallel in domains, and that with my last video, I had Naruto's domain include, and the mechanic of that domain include Kurama, the Nine Tails, in it, and make it very relevant and powerful. And so actually doing the same thing with the Susanoo, which seems like to be like a similar kind of point for Sasuke in a certain thematic sense, I think that works really well. I think it works really well. It's really cool. Also, there is an interesting parallel between the two, now that I think about it, in that I made Naruto have a Nine Tails curse sealed in him, in him being in JJK. I didn't fully explain, but I think how that would work for him in JJK. I might at some point explain it if anyone wants me to. But yeah, and so Naruto getting to have something that seems relatively special in JJK. It doesn't happen super often, of having a curse with you helping him in a similar way that Yuta had Rika. And then to have this version of Sasuke in JJK have a non-standard innate ability similar to Gojo, another big important figure in JJK. I think it's really cool. That's actually a really cool kind of parallel of what they each get to have in JJK's world. And yeah, I actually, thinking about it, I might make another video about this. I don't want to long this too much. How would Naruto and Sasuke's stories actually play out in fucking JJK's world if you take the same themes of their stories of loneliness and vengeance and trying to earn one's place in the world? having all that play out, but in JJK's world, that'd be interesting. I might think through that at some point. But yeah, there's my ideas. Nothing too crazy. A lot of ripping from original Naruto to make it happen. But it is what it is. I hope all of you enjoyed. This is a fairly fun video to make. Hope to make more. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Like and subscribe.